How is everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today I want to talk about an issue that I see a lot all over the place. We're talking about in your regular, everyday walking life, on television, the media, movies, on the internet, social media, websites, wherever a thing can be found. You see this particular issue pop up all the time, and that is racism. This big bad wolf, a specter that always is right over your head, right on your back. And more specifically, I want to speak on people that cry wolf about racism and how that affects all of us. First of all, before I even get into it, I just want to say that there is such thing as racism. It does exist. Some people judge you based upon your color, based upon how they think you're supposed to be. Prime example, they say, okay, you're a black person, Anthony. You're supposed to behave this way. You can't do this. You can't do this. You must do this and you must do that. That right there is racism. There are no laws on the books right now that actually point to racism. There used to be. You had the Jim Crow laws, segregation and stuff like that. Those laws existed. Well, you know what? I take that back. There are laws on the books that are promoting racism, affirmative action. Not only when you're talking about being able to get a job, but also when you're talking about college admissions. I hear like Asians get a 230, 240 point deduction on the SAT scores when you're talking about college admittance as it relates to a black person who gets a bump or an increase, all because of racism. That leads me to the whole thing about crying wolf. How is it racist if an Asian person has higher test scores on average than a black person? Where's the racism? How is it racist to say that on average, again, Asians have higher IQ scores than blacks? How is it racist? All you're doing is just identifying facts. That's it. Facts cannot be racist. Facts are what they are. If I tell you that, the sky's blue or, the sun is hot. If I say these things, how can that be considered racist? How can it be considered anything other than an observable fact? You could look at test scores, you could see what they are. That has to be seen as a fact only and not racism. Everything cannot be racist. I mean, I'm seeing stuff about peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, how they're racist, how certain types of housing is racist. People living in a certain place, like let's say, for example, you have the so-called gentrification, so-called white people moving into a place that is majority black. How is that racist? It's weird because on one hand, you have gentrification. That's white folks moving into an area that has a lot of black people in it. Not just whites, but mostly whites. You also have so-called white flight. That's white people leaving the area that starts to become more black. Both of these things are considered racist, but how can they both actually be racist? Either one is racist or none is racist. At the end of the day, I say that when you look at these things that really can't be considered racist as racist, true episodes of racism get swept under the rug. I almost did it myself talking about there is no racism. I had forgotten about the SAT scores, affirmative action, stuff like that. And then you have people that feel guilty about being racist. You got white people being called racist simply because they exist. Then you have a certain type of guilt that just manifests itself in them. It's like a cancer. It's right here in their chest. They take that guilt they have, it's like a cancer, and they turn it into a communicable disease. They give it to other people. They begin to teach classrooms like this. They begin to operate workplaces like this. And a lot of it is not even their fault because there are laws in the books that are made by people who also have that same guilt in them. EEOC, stuff like that. I mean, the whole Starbucks kerfuffle is an example of when race, guilt, and all of that just meets and becomes weaponized to destroy a particular place, to destroy a person. Starbucks says that they don't want to be a public bathroom, but they're going to give the bathroom code to everybody. Does that make any sense? No, it doesn't. But you have to understand, when you've been affected by that guilt, that cancer of racism or fake racism, you're going to do things that don't make any sense. And this is the problem with crying wolf about racism. When it actually happens, people tend to take it less seriously. It seemed more as an obligatory thing to react to in a positive way rather than an actual wrong that has occurred. If the thing that has occurred is what the person thinks is okay. Here's an example of the two I mentioned. The first one is obviously the Starbucks kerfuffle. You got two young black men who get escorted out of the Starbucks by the police. They get arrested or whatever because they refusal to leave. People are saying it's racist because they're black. They didn't do nothing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That is an example of a non-racist issue that has been weaponized into being something that is considered to be racist. Therefore, there must be a positive reaction. Positive meaning positive on the behalf of the guys that got arrested, not positive as in a good thing. On the other side, people can label Ben Carson an Uncle Tom or Coon, a sellout. He's an idiot. He's a buffoon. All this and that and the third. People could say truly racist things about him. I mean, the word coon, as far as I know, if I'm watching Forrest Gump and stuff like that, those are the things that people from back in the day, white people now that were racist, would say towards blacks when they didn't want them to come in their school, when they just didn't like them. Okay, these were the things that were said against us in a very racist way, the N-word and stuff like that. I don't even touch on that, but let's just talk about coon and all these other words. These are words that are meant to directly speak to somebody that's black because a person does not approve of them. Now you have white people using it towards black people. Nobody sees it as racist. Those of us on the right obviously see the racism there. You're using racial slurs to describe somebody. It doesn't matter if they're black, if they're white, if they're Jewish, if they're Asian, if they're Hispanic. If you're using racial slurs to describe somebody, you are being racist. But like I said, when people cry wolf all the time and race becomes a thing that is weaponized as, how can I say it, as ammunition for white guilt to spread the communicable disease of white guilt or of liberal guilt, because not just white, it's a lot of black folks who do the same thing. When race is only for that particular purpose, true episodes of racism tend to get ignored if they don't adhere to the guidelines of what someone deems to be an appropriate thing to fight for. You understand it? Does it make any sense? So this is the result of crying wolf about racism. People have lost total meaning of what racism is all about and how to actually identify it. So I don't have too much more to say, but I want to hear your thoughts on it. Give me the craziest story that you've heard about racism when it didn't exist. I know I saw the whole thing about peanut butter jelly sandwiches. Somebody asked, are they racist? Because I don't know, maybe people didn't have the privilege to be able to afford one. So that's what I'm talking about. People link racism in with other things. They utilize your pain, if you are a black person especially, or non-white, whatever it is. They utilize your pain or the pain they think you have or the pain of your ancestors or your own sensitivities toward race against you and whoever else they want to use it against when they feel necessary to do so. But episodes of real racism tend to get left by the wayside if they don't fall into what people at large think fits into what they should be fighting for. I feel like I'm repeating myself at this point. Give me your reaction. Give me your testimony and whatever else you got. Please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.